You said something that kind of raised a question. You said that America cannot function without immigrants. Is that true? And why would you say that?
From my perspective, it's absolutely true. I have had the benefit of probably meeting, tens of thousand immigrants in the period of time that I've been doing immigration law, so roughly about 20 years. And I can't recall an immigrant who voluntarily did not have a job in the United States. And what I mean by voluntarily is certainly there's some folks that cannot work because of their physical or mental condition, or folks that cannot work because of their age.
Mhm.
But just about every
Hmm.
immigrant that I've ever met that wanted a job had a job. So what does that tell you? It tells you that there is work that is absolutely positively out there that needs to be done by someone. And many of the immigrant clients that I've represented are willing and able and happy to do those jobs. That's why I think America cannot function without immigrants. It's also true when you look at it from the perspective of the corporations and the institutions that are bringing people into the United States to work. So think about this for a second. Let's say you own a business, right? You're a US citizen, you own a business, and you have
Hmm.
500 employees, right? And you're faced with a situation where you could hire an American worker, okay? And if you wanted to hire that American worker, you could hire them and have them start working for you in a number of hours, right? You do an intake process, you have them fill out an I-9, and then boom, you put them on payroll and they're working for you. If you want to hire a foreign national, right, it's going to take you several years, likely, for that person to be able to
Hmm.
work for you in a permanent context where you don't have to worry about
Hmm.
the possibility that they won't work with you. And it's going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars, right?
Yeah.
So if you're an American employee and you have the choice between these two,
Hmm.
it's unreasonable to think that someone's preference wouldn't be for the American citizen purely because it's easy and it's more
Right.
expeditious, right?
Yeah.
However, what we see is thousands, tens of thousands of employers that are looking to sponsor foreign nationals every single day. So why is that, right? Why would
Right. Yeah.
someone go to that journey, to that expense, unless it was absolutely necessary? So they're the two kind of spheres that I look at it through, and make it very clear to me that America cannot function without immigrants.
Right, that is always surprising to me as well that international students are I mean, yeah, sure. What I've seen is that American citizens get more options because there are smaller companies that just cannot go to that distance. But yeah, a lot of international students are getting jobs over here, and I always wonder like why is a company ready to pay that much and go to that distance?
Yep.
But we still did not get like why do you think that is? What is there in people who are coming from other countries um, that American citizens cannot be doing on their own? Is it just a number game? Because America is a large country when it comes to numbers as well. A lot of people don't notice this that it is actually fourth largest country when it comes
Sure.
comes to numbers. So
Well, I
what
think
is
it's
it
two things. I
really?
think that a part of it is numbers, right? Again, this
Hmm.
is not a scientific conclusion on my part. I can't
Hmm.
give you the overall population and
Hmm.
the population of immigrants in the United States and the number of jobs to tell you that the need is there. I'm concluding that on an anecdotal basis, just based on what I've seen, right? In that, it's there are many, many, many employers out there that simply cannot find work, and that
Hmm.
goes
Hmm.
from what's called unskilled labor all the way to the highest skilled labor, right? So part of it is me deducing that it is a numbers game. But I think the other part of it is that even if we were to look at the numbers and we were to say that, there was a certain number of able-bodied Americans that could do work, one of the things that changes the game is that America has a very good, in comparison, social welfare system. America has a
Hmm.
system that is built on workers' rights, and that carries benefits. So there are many, many people in the United States who are of working age that have chosen, some voluntary,
Hmm.
some involuntary, to be on the social welfare system. There are many, many people who cannot work because of physical and mental disabilities and are taking Social Security benefits and things along those lines. So while those people, if you look at it statistically, are able to work, they cannot work either because they've chosen not to or they're in a position where they cannot work. And therein lies the need for immigrant labor, or one of the needs, I should say, for immigrant labor. So that's a part of it. I think the other part of it is that America has been lacking in certain areas. And that would be in the STEM field, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, to where foreign nationals are educated in a way to where they can come in and start working for an employer on day one, whereas to train an American worker or to pay for their education makes that just as much of an investment of time and money as it is for the visa process. So I think it's all of those three things together create the need, or I should say the demand for immigrants to be in the United States and to work, and what we hope is to become legalized as a result of that.
Hmm. Right. That is the thing with the third world countries or the developing countries. They're always very focused towards STEM. I
Mhm.
remember when I was 18, I was told of only two careers, either engineering or medical. If you
Sure.
study biology, you go for medical. Otherwise, you go engineering.
Right,
That's it.
right, and we don't have
Yeah.
that here. The opposite is true in the United States, where again, and it's been some time since I looked at the numbers, but many students graduating colleges in the United States are focused on a different type of education, right? A liberal arts education, which brings in some science, some technology, but it brings in, history and literature and all kinds of different things that don't have a specific practical implication or effect, the same way studying biology leads you to a certain career. And that certainly then creates a demand for the jobs that need science, technology, engineering, and mathematics backgrounds if United States citizens going through traditional college and university aren't getting that. So I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of where people from developing countries and other countries have figured out a way to scratch the itch, right? They figured out a way to become the solution to one of the labor problems that exists in the United
I think
States.
what they're trying to do is be at least the solution for their own countries, because if a country is developing, it will be requiring more STEM majors. But what I was thinking of is that United States of America has always been known as the industrial giant during the World War One, during the World War Two. So you think about a gigantic industry in this country, and the number of STEM majors is not as much. So it automatically, yeah, I think that would finally answer what you said, is that it cannot function without immigrants,
Simply
right?
cannot function. Yeah, it's not even a close call for me, right?
Hmm. Hmm, hmm,
There's been times, especially between 2016 and 2020, when Donald Trump was president, when the
hmm,
immigration system was being weaponized,
hmm,
and we saw a historic number of arrests, a historic number of denials on green card applications and visa applications. And during that time, I often thought and often wanted to advocate for something along the lines of an immigrant sit out day, right? Where anyone who was not a lawful permanent resident or not a US citizen would simply just not show up to work for a day, right? And what
oh,
that would do is
hmm,
it would make society realize how
oh, yeah,
important immigrant labor is to the
right.
United States, right? So and you can do it along the
Hmm,
spectrum of work. You go to your favorite restaurant, and if there's not immigrants cooking in the kitchen, if there's not immigrants that are working to provide the food that the kitchen gets, then you're not going to be able to get a meal at your favorite restaurant. All
hmm,
the way up until if your parent is having a surgery and the surgeon is a foreign national and is taken
hmm,
off that day as a way to as a political protest, then you would really see the implication, because you would have to reschedule the surgery for your parent. So I've often thought that may be an interesting way to send the message to the rest of society, in the hope that
hmm,
Congress would get the memo and do something
hmm,
about immigration reform.